Ladies and gentlemen, James Lane here, and this is episode 75 of the American Reveille Podcast. And today we're going to talk all about jobless claims. Jobless claims have jumped to 861,000, which, according to this Breitbart article, is much worse than expected. And what did we expect from Biden? What did we expect from his radical agenda? Well, because a lot of people don't quite understand what he's doing, what he has done, and what he's planning to do. We're going to go through this article. We're going to talk about the jobs lost and what's happening. And then we're going to read about all of the policies that he plans to enact that will affect jobs and the total number of jobs expected to be lost because of his idiocracy. And folks, let me tell you right now, it is over 1 million. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, James Lane here. This is episode 75 of the American Reveille Podcast. Truthfully, we've done something like 150 or 160 episodes. We're just labeling them weird because I'm stupid, basically. I'm just kidding. I'm not that stupid, but maybe stupid in this area, the area of pre-planning. Because I didn't plan the numbering system for these episodes well. I kind of winged a lot of it. So there's a lot of things that were labeled as bonus clips. And I had like 3-hour-long podcasts, which are like bonus clips. So now everything's basically a podcast. Screw it. Folks, first off, thank you. Thank you very much for the help. There's a lot of donations that came in lately. A lot of props, guys. Thank you so much. Those donations helped me get a new monitor. As you know, I bitched and moaned about it in the last couple videos. My monitor, my main monitor right here, right? I'm like literally looking at it with my left eye. Yeah, it's creepy, right? It blew. It was gone. It didn't exist. Finito. Okay. Now it's sitting on the floor over there. Listen. I didn't have $400 laying around, man. I got kids and stuff. Listen, I found there was about $350 donated to the company. We drew it out. I put $100 into my own money, and we were able to get this fantastic 32-inch curved Philips monitor. And now I can read the news and different articles and things like that without having to look like this and like stretch my head back to look at the monitor that I have up here or the one that I have all the way back over there. So thank you again. I just wanted to let all of the fans know that I'm very grateful for your support and grateful for the help. You do make a difference when you donate to the American Reveille. So I greatly appreciate it. With that being said, I'm also very grateful that I still have a job. And no, my job isn't doing this as much as I want this to be my job. I hope this becomes my job. I'm working very hard. I've built a company. We've started building it up. All right. Just because you make a company doesn't mean it's full blown and ready to rock. So we're in the foundational stages, building brick upon brick upon brick. So what do? How do I pay for it? People are looking at me like, where are you getting this money from? Where am I getting this money from? I work. Of course, I work during the day. I go to school at night. I do the company at night. I barely sleep. Married, kids, you know, the whole rigmarole. You can do it too. You can do it too. All right. It's not easy. It sucks, but it's a mindset. All right. And does the work suck? No, the work doesn't suck. It's the grind that sucks because you have to get used to delayed gratification. You can't sit there and hope that instantaneously something good's going to happen day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, decades sometimes. To reach the potential you need to reach in order to be successful. The grind, ladies and gentlemen, the hard road towards success, that is where people quit. And let me give you a little word of advice, ladies and gentlemen. If you just don't quit, if you just stick around long enough people will quit and the spot will open up for you. That's really how it works. Most people, they can't hack it. They can't hack it very long. Everybody has different levels of what they can take and how hard they can grind towards success, towards freedom, towards whatever it is that they want to do. I know I'm getting a little soapboxy, a little inspirational. Excuse me for that. But, you know, maybe if I could give somebody a little advice from all of my failures and opportunities and the things that I learned from, hey, maybe it'll be good for somebody out there to hear it, right? So, with that being said, shoot for the stars, ladies and gentlemen. If you shoot for the stars, what's the worst that could happen? Fail a little bit, land in the sky. The sky is still pretty successful in my book, folks, but not as successful as Joe Biden has been. And successful at what, you might ask? Successful at tearing this country apart. You see, it's not white supremacy. It's not Donald Trump. It's not left-wing terrorists or right-wing terrorists. It's not Batman, Robin, the Easter Bunny, or Santa Claus, ladies and gentlemen. No, the great divider himself. Ladies and gentlemen, President Joe Biden. And President Joe Biden has screwed the pooch, and job claims are on the rise. Unemployment filings are skyrocketing, and things are falling apart. The great green wave isn't necessarily a wave of renewable energy. It seems to be a wave of vomit and nausea. That's right. I associated the color green, you know, like the emoji. You see that sick emoji? It's like, meh. It's got the green face. I tried. All right. I do that. I'm not a comedian. All right. I'd like to try that, by the way, just for a rabbit hole, little fun fact there. I've always wanted to try stand-up comedy. Never tried it. Not once in my life. It's absolutely terrifying to me. It's probably the scariest thing I could imagine doing, which is probably why one day I'll have to do it, because there's probably something there. But I digress. I'm not Steven Crowder. He just beat the shit out of me comedy-wise and make me look like a fool, so I might as well just stick to what I'm doing, all right? Let's get back out of the rabbit hole. Let's dig our way out a little bunny hole, and let's get our butts back on topic. And the topic of the day is Joe Biden screwing the pooch. And we're going to talk about the jobless claims. We're going to talk about where they jumped to. We're going to talk about how much worse it was than expected. And, you know, I'll go off on a couple little tangents. We'll play off it a little. But more importantly, once I kind of set you up with the jobless claims, with where we're at, with where this is escalating to, we're going to go into an article that explains Joe Biden's policies, what he plans on doing, and the estimated amount of jobs that will be lost over a period of time, while he straight-face lies to all of us dog-faced pony soldiers about creating some sort of magical jobs out of leprechaun dust, of fairy tales, and rainbow powder. All right? I don't know what any of that stuff is. If anybody's a really good artist, you could make a meme, throw all that in there, and come up with a creation for the uses of rainbow powder. Although, I think that's what you end up with all over your face like glitter if you end up at the Gay Pride Parade. Anyway, let's take a look. Jobless claims jump to 861,000. Much worse. Much worse than expected, ladies and gentlemen. That's John Carney, February 18th, 2021, Breitbart News. Let's read, folks. New weekly jobless claims unexpectedly rose by 13,000 to 861,000 in the week that ended February 13th. The Department of Labor had said Thursday. Economists had expected claims to fall to 768,000 from 793,000. Initially reported for the prior week. What's that mean? That means they expected jobs to fall. They expected us to be doing better, like how it was under Trump. It was getting better every month, but no. It ended up 100,000 plus in the opposite direction, folks. Jobless claims can be volatile week to week, so economists like to look at the 4-week average. This fell to 833,250, 3,500 below the prior week's average. Jobless claims, which are a proxy for layoffs, remain at extremely high levels. Prior to the pandemic, the highest level of claims was 695,000, hit in October of 1982. Long time. In March of 2009, at the depths of the financial crisis recession, jobless claims peaked at 665,000. And I was one that lost my job during that time period. Even when the economy is creating a lot of demand for workers, many businesses will shed employees as they adjust to market conditions. But in a high-pressure labor market, those employees quickly find jobs and many never show up on the employment rolls. What appears to be happening now, though, is that many workers who lose their jobs cannot quickly find replacement work and are forced to apply for benefits. So there's Joe Biden forcing you, ladies and gentlemen, putting the hypothetical gun to your head, saying, I've taken your job, I've taken your livelihood, I've taken the food off your table. Now join my socialist system, my friends. Join the revolution or starve. That is what is happening. All right? That's as simple as it gets. Now, that's not everybody. It might be a basic little part of it. That's a little goodie. All right. The left loves their socialism. The left loves their Marxism. But at the end of the day, the radical moves that Biden's making is shifting job markets. It's shifting job opportunities. Couple this with different businesses out there closing down, mom and pop shops by the hundreds of thousands closing down for good. People are losing their jobs. It's not just the Marxism, but, it really smells like it. It really tastes like it. It looks like a goat. It smells like a goat. It tastes like a goat. I don't know. Maybe we're eating Indian food. And don't give me crap for saying that. All right. There's goat in Indian food. I've had goat korma. All right. I've had, what is that stuff called? Goat marsala. All right. Don't screw with me. I've eaten food from other places. And when I say other places, I'm talking about the Indian food up the street. Even when the economy is creating a lot of demand for workers, many businesses will shed employees as they adjust to this market condition. But in a high-pressure labor market, all right, those employees quickly find jobs, and many never show up on the employment rolls. What did I mean by this when I said it a second ago? What did I mean by this? This means, all right, that in a different type of labor market, a high pressure labor market, something different than what's going on, businesses would shed employees, adjust to conditions, right? That would happen before, all right, creating a lot of demand for workers, right? A good economy, it says many businesses will shed the employees, blah, blah, blah. That's normal. In a high pressure market, right? People will quickly find jobs but never end up on the employment rolls. That's not happening either. What they're saying is something different's happening. They're trying to relate it directly, all right, directly to unique conditions. And we are in unique conditions, and they are being literally exasperated by mentally deficient, demented, all right, dementia-ridden codger that's hobbling around the White House, not knowing where he is in the morning, having to ask Jill, I bet she makes him call her Dr. Jill, where he is. All right? Plain and simple. Claims hit a record 6.87 million, all right, for the week of March 27th. More than 10 times the previous record. Through spring and early summer, each subsequent week had seen claims decline, all right? But in late July, the labor market appeared to stall and claims hovered around 1 million throughout August, a level so high it was never recorded before the pandemic struck. Claims moved down again in September and had made slow, if steady progress. That's saying it was improving. It was improving. Even if it was slowly improving, it was headed in the right direction every single month, all the way up until the election. That seems to be the common catalyst, the common theme, the common reason why there was a change. All right, things were going in one direction. Something was introduced that caused the thing to go in another direction. Continuing claims which get reported with a week's lag, fell by 64,000 to 4,494,000. There are 2 new programs offering unemployment benefits to people previously ineligible, such as self-employed workers or small business owners. The total number of continued weeks claimed for benefits in all programs for the week ending January 30th was 18,340,161, a decrease of 1,325,567 from the previous week. Now, with all that being said, we got all that technical mumbo jumbo out of the way. I want to tell you about a conversation I had with a buddy of mine today. We were talking about a third-party friend, all right, not my friend, but my buddy's friend, some third person in the conversation that I'd never heard of, right? And he was telling me about how his adult kids live at home. And now, look, times are different. And my wife's from the Philippines, right? So I understand family living at home as long as people are contributing and doing different things like that. I get it. All right. People have a different way. But no, this person still pays their bills and different things like that. And, you know, when my friend asked his friend why their kid doesn't go out and try to get a job, his answer was, "Pops, I make more money on unemployment than I ever did working a job. Why would I go out and try to find a job when I could just pocket this and hang out at home?" That is the problem with America right now in a nutshell. And that problem was created by Democrats. That problem was created by leftists, by radical extremists, to bring forth this radical leftist, progressive, I dare go beyond that and truthfully say socialist Marxist agenda. All right. Whether it was used or deployed using COVID-19 as a vessel, whether this was planned, whether it was a natural evolution, it is Marxist, it is evil, it is wrong, regardless of its origin. Plain and simple. All right? Plain and simple. And speaking of origins, every president that comes in is supposed to have a plan, right? They're supposed to have a foundation, a starting point, an origin, a place to go for, it's a business plan, right? A plan of action, what I want to do, the things I'm going to do, how I can justify those things, why I'm going to make changes, all that different stuff. Look at this, all right? This comes from Grant Atkinson from the Western Journal. The Federalist Papers posted this. Experts, here's how many jobs Biden's agenda will kill. It'll cost more than 1,411,000 U.S. jobs. And that is being nice. All right. So while things are getting worse, and while we're all trying to figure out what to do, Joe Biden feels he should bring forth some green agenda. We saw how well that worked down in Texas. And I don't want to hear what you have to say about it, lefties. Screw you and your heaters, all right? There's science, there's things that explain why things were done differently in Texas. For example, this cold snap is one of those things that doesn't happen but once every 100 years or so. Trust me, there are many ways we could go about debating it, but there's no point in debating it because the lefties will just call me a racist for saying anything against climate change. You know, the thing they used to call global warming until that was proved wrong and they had to rebrand it. Not rename it, rebrand it, because it's marketing, ladies and gentlemen. It's all for your cashola. I know I probably said something in the last couple sentences and then shifted my topic, but hey, that's all right. It happens. This is my show. I want to read this to you. I want to talk about what Joe Biden is doing, what he plans to do. I want to talk about how it is affecting jobs. And, we'll play on it. We'll go on it. We'll see where it leads us. All right. So let's start reading. President Joe Biden has made climate change a top priority since taking office in January 20th. In doing so, the House GOP estimates he'll kill a total of 1.41 million jobs with his currently stated policies. The House GOP Twitter account posted a graphic breaking down the potential job losses due to Biden's executive orders. President Biden's first 2 weeks have been a sprint to the left. After bucking the inaugural message of unity, far-left policies have been the only priority. The American people have already been left behind, and hundreds of thousands of jobs have been destroyed. House Republicans. And we have already seen the reflection of those destroyed jobs. All right. This article where they're talking about jobs being destroyed, that was written February 1st. All right. The one I read before this was written yesterday. All right. It was written yesterday. So it's showing how his earlier policies when he first came in are already affecting. They thought we were going to improve, and we did nothing but get worse. And it's a direct reflection upon Joe Biden's original, all right, his first few days of signing these executive orders and continuing forward, the things that have been killing jobs and drastically altering the landscape of our economy. All right. And our markets and our job force. Really, really crazy stuff. Put that on top with the China virus, and you have nothing but a recipe for disaster. So far, the executive order that has probably received the most vocal blowback is one ending construction of the Keystone XL pipeline. TC Energy estimated that this project would create 11,000 jobs, which is why the GOP said Biden's order killed those 11,000 jobs. In an effort to save Biden from negative press, PolitiFact fact-checked this claim. They called it half true, but the reasoning made little sense to none. That reminds me of Trump's lawyer during the acquittal of the impeachment, or after it when they interviewed him. I forgot his name. Excuse me. I should be better prepared. But the one that did that killer argument at the end, and then he talked to that really snotty gremlin-faced news anchor who was saying basically that the Democrats only, the House managers or the impeachment managers, only altered a little bit. And he's like, what? That's not enough? So you're saying cheating a little bit is okay? That's what that sounds like. That's what that feels like when the fact checker says half true. It's like they're making a freaking exception for the left while peeing on our backs and telling us it's raining. Quote, in the report, TC Energy wrote that 10,400 estimated positions would be for seasonal construction work lasting 4 to 8 month periods. It said, since the State Department defines job as one position that is filled for 1 year, that would equate to approximately 3,900 jobs over a 2-year period. Try as they may, PolitiFact cannot change the damage done by Biden's order by applying a specific definition of the word job. It's crazy. Anyone who knows anything about construction understands that most jobs in that industry are temporary. A worker works on a project for a number of months, and then he moves on to another project, right? The effort to downplay the severity of Biden's executive order by PolitiFact is clearly a political one, and most logical Americans understand that all of 11,000 of those construction positions counted as jobs. All right. And that is right up the alley of the left. That is their MO. They rename, they redefine, they change words, they steal our words and throw them in their woke dictionary and corrupt them. They're literally corrupting the English language, and it's a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy. In addition, Phil Flynn said in a Fox Business Opinion article that Biden's hatred towards fracking can have other consequences. Quote, Biden's disdain for fracking has been transparent and will assuredly put more regulations on the industry and make it harder to build much needed infrastructure, which will inevitably lead us to much higher energy prices, which is absolutely true. Despite the pipeline being more efficient and less likely to cause spills than other methods, like rail transfer, Biden shut down the project in the name of supposed climate change concerns. Well, and I don't know if you saw this today, but you got John Kerry screaming, we got 9 years, we got 9 years to save the planet. If we don't save the planet in 9 years, we're all going to die. According to John Kerry, Another man who's out of touch and out of his friggin' mind. Out of his friggin' mind. Let's take this a step further. Biden put the U.S. right back into the Paris Climate Agreement. Hooray. All right. Hooray. Expect to be paying a lot more taxes in a frickin' paycheck near you. Why is my paycheck less? Oh, well, the government's taking more money out of it. Great. Quote, our Heritage Foundation. All right. Oh, actually, let me go up. In 2017, the Heritage Foundation called it essentially an agreement to put hundreds of thousands of middle-class American workers in coal, steel, oil and gas, construction and manufacturing into unemployment lines. Think about all the people that work in those fields. All right. Think about that. Our Heritage Foundation colleague, Nick Loris, estimates that over the next decade, the agreement will cost Americans an extra $30,000 per family of 4 in higher energy prices and some 400,000 lost jobs, 200,000 in manufacturing alone, they said. And of course, the elites look down at us peons and say, deal with it. It's because we believe that it's better for you this way. It's for the greater good. Screw your individual liberty as they wipe their ass with the U.S. Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, if I'm lying, may God strike me down as I speak. If the Constitution was actually followed, things would be a lot different right now. Furthermore, they argue that while America's participation in the agreement can be seen as mostly symbolic, that's expensive symbolism, Heritage Foundation colleague Nick Loris estimates, oh, I read that already. Excuse me. I'm not even going to edit that out. I'm not. This is a podcast. I don't have that kind of free time on my hands. I'd like to edit it out. I'd like to make it fancier, but you know what? It's better raw and uncut. And I got another video or two to do after this, ladies and gentlemen. So make fun of me for it in the comment section below. Call me the most ridiculous name you could think of. Put in the comments below. That'll be the keyword that you can put in to stimulate the algorithm that probably won't be stimulated anyway because I'm shadow banned on YouTube. But if you're watching on Odyssey, hit that little flame icon. It's like the like button for Odyssey. Share, subscribe. All right. You'll see the links at the end, and I'll have them in the description section below. Let's get to the right part of this, okay? The part that I'm supposed to be reading, all right? And it's this. He likens the Paris Agreement to a $2.5 trillion global tax on American production. So the cost to America would be anything but symbolic. And that's the issue, all right? People like Joe Biden, people of the woke left, they believe that America and its white supremacist ways have taken advantage of the world because we've been in the top spot too long and we should share the wealth and it should be diversified among all the countries and we should all have an equal seat at the table. And, you know, I always think back when the socialist crap comes up, when they just freaking spew their utopia nonsense. I just think of the part in The Matrix, right? Where Agent Smith has Morpheus tied to the chair and he sends the other agents out and he's telling them, you know, that he is giving the history of the Matrix to Morpheus. He tells him, you know, Morpheus, when we first designed the Matrix, we wanted to make you happy. We wanted to make a perfect world. We designed a perfect simulation, a perfect Earth. And humans just would not accept the programming. Entire crops were lost, meaning tons of people died because they wouldn't accept a perfect world because we are imperfect creatures. There is no perfection. You see, that's why socialism looks great on paper, right? Because mathematically it makes sense. But if you want to look at it in terms of volatility, all right, the variable, the X factor that's calculated into the socialist equation is human beings, and human beings are anything but a stable piece of data there, a stable unit, something that's going to be consistent with every single person. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own baggage, their own nonsense, their own bullshit, their own drama, their own demons, their own problems, their own norms, their own life. And that doesn't work when you plug it into socialism. We are not lemmings. All right. We are not numbers. We're not cogs in the machine. We're human beings. Damn it. And in order to make this socialist dream work, Joe Biden's going to have to turn us into obedient little I guess cogs in the machine. Is that the best way to put it? Maybe I would say servants. Maybe I would say obedient peasants. Maybe I would say part of the Borg. That's how the woke left acts, like they're part of the Borg. At the end of the day, they have to beat us down. And that's just what they're trying to do. That's just what they're trying to do with these policies. They want us to lose faith. They want us to never, ever think we can bring this country back to the good old days. And I'm not talking the bad crap that was involved in it. Of course, let's get a good old days without the bad stuff, right? I'm not talking about racism and shit like that, all right? It's funny how the left will all of a sudden go back to the original definition of racism if somebody makes a weird comment that doesn't sound right, right? But when it's anything else, when they have to shift the definition to their woke definition of racism involving equity and all that stuff because it suits them, they're good for that as well. All right. What I'm basically trying to get at is the left doesn't want traditional values in this country. They don't want us to be anti-abortion because abortions pay for a lot of things. Abortions fuel this dependency machine on the left. All right. Are there certain circumstances where life and death come into play and medical reasons call for certain things? Sure. Sure, there are. There are always circumstances. There are always things to talk about like adults and human beings. But the left uses these things as tools. They're all tools in their evil arsenal of manipulation, of mind control, of brainwashing. And that's what we're pushing back against. That's what we're trying to change. That's what we don't want in this country. And unfortunately, we're being punished. And the next 4 years will be very painful. That's just what it is. But that is what we are fighting against. That's why we need to be informed. That's why you must know the truth. That's why you have to be empowered. That's why you must be on a mission to wake your brothers and sisters up, ladies and gentlemen. The more people wake up, the more we save this country for our kids and our grandkids. All right? We don't have to do this physically. You know how this works. We just have to outsmart them. We just have to outsmart them. So now that I'm off my soapbox, all right, let's keep reading. On top of that, it mentions that remaining in the pact commits the U.S. to reducing our carbon emissions by 30% below 2005 levels, even though most of the world's major polluters will continue to emit massive amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. That's the whole thing. That's one of the big reasons they pulled us out of the Paris Climate Agreement before. That's what Trump did, because we were paying so much money, billions, I think, billions and billions and billions of dollars. We're getting nothing for it. We're lowering all of our emissions and everything like that. Well, all these other countries are getting away with murder. They're getting away with murder. They're polluting on a level the likes of which the universe has never seen. And yet America's the big bad guy that needs to be slapped down into submission. How they don't see that this is a strategy to weaken the United States of America, it almost makes me believe that they couldn't not see that. So maybe they're a part of the problem. In other words, the agreement fails to adequately address the real factors that are leading to changes in the climate, while countries like China and India continue to pollute the air, and the United States gets punished for nothing, We take the blows, we take the hits, we pay the price like a little baby bitch. Plain and simple. Finally, Biden issued a January 27th executive order to pause oil and gas leasing on public lands. Didn't know about that one, did you? American Petroleum Institute president and CEO Mike Summers warned of the potential consequences this decision might have back in September. Banning federal leasing and development on federal lands and waters could derail decades of U.S. energy progress and return us to the days of relying on foreign energy sources hostile to American interests. And if you think he's kidding, Joe Biden today just dropped all sanctions against Iran, and we're returning to the bargaining table. Isn't it going to be funny? Isn't it going to be ironic? Isn't it going to be terrifying when a united Middle East stands up against a united Iran and United States? Could you even imagine that? Lefties, you voted for this guy. Banning federal leasing, right? That's what we're talking about. Development on federal lands and waters could derail decades of U.S. energy progress. Guys, Trump made us energy independent. He made us energy independent, and that is gone. It's already gone. We are about to rely on these foreign energy sources. If the ban becomes permanent, Fox Business said it could result in 1 million jobs being lost by 2022, right around the corner, folks. When he said it's 2021, it's almost March. That's 9 months. We'll lose 1 million jobs. What do you think is going to happen to this country if we lose 1 million jobs in the next 9 months? Absolutely terrifying. A 2020 report by the API said that banning hydraulic fracturing and federal leasing could trigger a U.S. recession marked by declining economic output as measured by gross domestic product. Their estimates resulted in a 1.2 trillion reduction in GDP by 2022 if an outright ban on fracking and leasing of oil and gas occurs. To compound these problems, Biden still does not have a true plan for clean energy. Flynn and Biden claims his $2 trillion clean energy plan would create millions of jobs, but he implies that the plan lacks the details of how such a feat would ever be accomplished. And, one thing I read about, for example, clean energy like windmills, they're the most expensive form of clean energy. And they take the actual burning of thousands upon tens of thousands of tons of coal and oil to make the steel and to put all the parts together. I mean, it's actually pretty horrible how much you have to pollute to create a wind turbine, one of those big windmill things. It was a pretty interesting fact to find out. I'll tell you that. They froze. It's not funny. I don't mean to laugh. You know, God help some of those folks down there. And I hope everybody's doing okay. All right. Everybody I know in Texas, I checked on a couple of my friends still without water, still without food and power, but friends and communities are coming together and taking care of each other. So fantastic and wonderful. And you almost heard that Freudian slip there, didn't you? And God bless Texas. God bless Texas, ladies and gentlemen, because man, oh man, the American spirit and ingenuity that I'm seeing all over Texas of people just coming together and taking care of each other, the old school, the right way, the American way, warms my heart, ladies and gentlemen. Really good stuff. All right. Really good stuff. To compound these problems, we said that already, at this point, it appears Biden cares more about satisfying the climate change activists than he does about working class Americans. While he signs orders that are supposed to help the climate, though even that fact is questionable, he effectively ignores the people whose livelihoods he's affecting. Vague promises of clean energy jobs at some point in the future are not going to cut it at all. Biden needs to answer for the jobs he's killed and the difficulties he's brought on many U.S. citizens. And he does. He truly does. But is it really going to matter, ladies and gentlemen? Is it really going to matter? At the end of the day, we know what their plan is. They know they want to wreck us. They know they want to force socialism upon us by ripping our economy apart, by ripping us from our jobs, by giving families no choice but to beg the government for help. no choice but to depend on the system. And if the majority of the people depend on the system, it's not going to be very hard to throw out capitalism, and replace it with socialism. All right. Redistribute the wealth, seize the bank accounts. There's all kinds of things that can be done. Is it happening right now? No. All right. This is speculation. So don't screw with me, YouTube. Don't screw with me, Facebook, anybody else on those mainstream platforms. This is me speculating. This is me foreshadowing, forewarning, taking a look at what's happening and letting everybody know that these are scary times and that things are taking a shape and things are coming together and things are happening that don't seem very coincidental to me. And they haven't seemed coincidental to any of us for a very, very long time, folks. A very long time. Do what you can to keep making money. Do what you can to come together and take care of each other as communities. Do what you can to be creative and barter and be independent. All right? Do you have a skill? Do you have a craft? Can you make things? Can you sell things? My mom crochets blankets. She can sell them. You see where I'm coming from? Guys, I have faith in you. We're all going to do fantastic. It's going to be hard for a while. It's going to hurt for a while. But we're stronger, smarter, and better than these lefties. They may walk a real shifty path, folks, but we walk, live, breathe, and reside upon the path of righteousness, consistency, discipline, and ownership, ladies and gentlemen. You put enough of that in enough people headed in the same direction, they're unstoppable. Folks, we'll be all right. And you know, even though Joe Biden's coming after our jobs, coming after our way of life, coming after everything else we hold dear, this too will come to an end and will not prevail. Across the country, there are movements happening, people coming together. They silenced the right, and therefore it seems like nothing's happening. But the right, my friends, the right is louder than it's ever been before. All right? I really hope you enjoyed that. I hope you liked episode 75. I got a really interesting one coming up for 76, but you're going to have to stay tuned. I want to surprise you with that one. I thought it was really important to talk about this. All right. That's a lot of jobless claims. And a lot of people look at that and they don't understand what it means or where it's going or where it's coming from. So I wanted to talk about Biden's policies a little bit and how it leads to the jobless claims. I want to do it as simply as possible in a way that I could put it to you that would be interesting. We could have a little fun with it. You'd understand it. You'd retain it. You'd be empowered by it, and you could use it to help wake other people up. So thank you so much for watching that and learning from it and being a part of this with me here at the American Reveille. It's really awesome. It really is. And I think that we are making a huge difference. And the response that I get from you guys in the email, jameslane@AmericanReveille.com, has been tremendous. And with that, do me a favor, guys. I've been linking this out on Odyssey and Rumble more than YouTube. So if you're watching on Odyssey, right, take a look. This is my Odyssey channel. It's just like YouTube. It's actually really nice. I got everything up here. I got 100, it's like 160, 170 videos up here. Look, it's endless. Odyssey.com, ODYSEE. I'm there as American_Reveille. This is what my page looks like. So if it looks different, it's not my page. You can go right up to the top, all right? Sign up to Odyssey, follow me, and hit the notification bell. In my opinion, this company is going to be the YouTube for the right. I really believe that. They are fair. They are balanced. They've treated me very well so far. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys. And if you could do that for me, I would be very thankful. All right. So go look for American_Reveille in Odyssey, and it'll be linked below. Do the same for me at the website. Go to AmericanReveille.com. All right, sign up for the mailing list, for the newsletter. Do me a favor, hit the contact tab. All right, and leave me a message. Let me know if you have any feedback, if I could do something better, or if you have a request, or if there's any way that you think you could help us. We always need writers. We always need graphic designers, people that do logo and branding and different things like that. We always need help. So please, please, please reach out. James Lane at AmericanReveille.com, or hit that contact button. All right. And if you really want to help out further than that, if you really appreciate what we're doing and you'd like to see us succeed, hit the support us tab. All right. And please donate to the American Reveille LLC. I promise you, we use it nowhere else but investing it right back into the American Reveille. Like I said, my monitor blew and donations are what saved our butts. And we were able to get back in the saddle within 2 days with the main monitor that I do all of my video editing on. So it was a very, very big deal. So do me that favor. What a great new article out. God is Not Dead, Journalism Is, by Thomas Marlowe. All right. That's the newest article out on www.americanreveille.com. And another good one from Kinsley Kurtz below that, Nancy Pelosi's a crazy old lady. I really enjoyed that article. So check it out. All right, guys. And of course, Parler's back up. Here we are. We're up on Parler at the James Lane. Follow me on Parler and tell every single person you know and don't know about the American Reveille podcast. I can't do any of this without you. All right. Street teams coming to a city near you. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk on the next episode, guys. Bye.